Alright, I'm gonna break down exactly what's going on right now with that, ancient galaxy going ahead and, you know, breaking the laws of physics. Because keep in mind, you know, fire in the vacuum of space. You know, usually it would take, like for example, like a burning star, like the sun, you know, usually the only things that could really, actually maintain it in a state of burning. But all right, so let's say this little box that I use for my guitar picks. All right, this the entirety of space, okay? And then in the entirety of space, this thing of puppets will go ahead and represent our universe. All right, our universe takes up a lot of space. All right, now it looks like, there's all this space here, so we've got nothing to worry about. But now we've got that ancient galaxy burning and expanding. All right, and now it is parallel and taking up that same space. All right, at first sight, it's, oh, well, it looks like there's enough room for the both of them. All right, but then you go to put on the lid. Oh, the lid will not close. Why? Past maximum capacity. Well, ultimately, it's seeming like there's still enough space for them. Oh, would you look at that? As it's expanding, now that universe is getting fluffed. All right, and it is becoming wider in density. All right, so now that one is seeming like it is going to start taking up more space than our universe. All right, and the lid is still not closing. How much could that other universe be expanding? Infinitely. Which means that ultimately, that universe could even go ahead and take the span of both of those universes, while simultaneously, the lid still will not close. Alright? But the larger that universe forming ends up getting, the less space there is for, our reality. You understand a little bit? Now, let's go ahead and talk about consciousness. Okay? So, people bring up the conversation of birth. Alright? Well, there is one way that birth never gets perceived as. Alright? The forming of a human being is a person in a state of stasis. Alright? Now, what would be another example of something that is in a state of stasis? A caterpillar and a cocoon waiting to become a butterfly. Alright? Now, you see this jersey? Alright? It is a white jersey. Alright? Now, there is something simultaneously going on the other end. Alright? Where Flip it inside out. And it's a blue jersey. All right. But even though it's still a blue jersey, it's also a white jersey. Both things can be true. All right. Now, in a comatose state, all right, a comatose state is also a form of stasis. Okay? So, think of it as an alternate reality. Okay? Ultimately, the body is there, but the consciousness, there's only just enough consciousness to keep the body tethered to a person's actual consciousness. All right? Time moves differently for the people that are observing that body. All right? That body, the amount of time that body is in a coma, does not equate to the amount of time that person is actually in a coma. Okay? So, parallel realities. All right? So, while you've got, like, say, for example, a coma that ends up lasting 2 years. All right? In a matter of that 2 years, that person's consciousness, while still tethered to their body, all right, is able to live a full life. All right? And through that full life, end up going ahead and learning about different things. Some things that might even be foreign concepts to the people in the reality that the body is tethered to. Okay? So, for example, different spatial anomalies that have never been noticed or perceived by humanity, quite literally a potential existence ending event. Quite literally can and even possibly has taken place in that parallel reality that person that was in that coma ended up going ahead and getting out of. All right? So while that person's body, it's perceived that they were in a coma, for example, like 2 years. All right? Quite literally, in that parallel reality, their consciousness could have well existed for an entire 70 to 100-year life cycle. All right? So if that person's consciousness comes back to their body, all right, they physically look like they've only aged 2 years. All right? But if they're capable of recalling everything from that parallel reality, all right, then we're talking that person has between 70 to 100 years of lived experience, including that apocalyptic existence altering event that the reality that person's body was tethered to when they were in a coma has never experienced before. All right? So think Schrodinger. The cat, cat in the box with with the uranium. Is the cat dead or is the cat alive? Don't know until you're able to perceive the cat. All right? That sight-based. All right? So, when people bring up stupid fucking things to me, like, oh, romanticizing, oh, thinking about having sex, oh, love life, romanticism, oh, you're lonely, oh, you're lonely, oh, you're lonely. It's like, listen, I know you're trying to mentally plant a seed, but understand something. I'm too busy focusing on the existence ending events, So while you're wanting to attempt a future fake, I'm thinking about the events that could potentially, cause there to not be a fucking future. So there's more pressing matters in hand. It's literally one of those things like, hell's not gonna, hell would end up freezing over before such and such a thing. And if hell does freeze over, we got bigger things to worry about. I'm focusing on the bigger things to worry about. All right. Now, trying to, subconscious, you're right where you're supposed to be, doing exactly what you're supposed to. Did you notice the screen lighting up? When literally mocking you're doing exactly what you're supposed to be doing. Yeah. Those things get fucking irritating. Alright? When other people end up noticing them. Because I can't stop fucking noticing them. Alright? So I got people wanting to fucking future fake and gaslight and shit and wanting to, be so hard. Oh, I know you have ulterior motives. Oh, I know you're bullshitting and da da da. It's like, listen. Since apparently music is a way for you to be able to understand, alright? Funny thing is, think of the lyrics from, No Love by Eminem featuring Lil Wayne. Been to hell and back, I can show you vouchers. It's like, listen, there are things that I'd like to do. There are things that I'd like to enjoy my fucking time getting to experience. Because, can't fucking give me that time back that I was in the coma. And apparently people are pissed off too that, literally the answers, I had the fucking answers to, the legal quagmire people attempted to put me in by breaching the fucking law in an attempt to try to place me in that position, while them trying to maintain plausible deniability and failing to do so, completely incriminating themselves. And it's like, listen, if you never went to go attempt to instigate a litigatory fucking quagmire, we wouldn't be in this very position. Alright? So you shot yourself in the fucking foot. And now you're pissed off at me? Because if you didn't believe what the fuck people were saying bullshit-wise about me, you would have never shot yourself in the fucking foot? How about stop having that motherfucker loaded? So that way, those bullets won't end up going in your fucking foot. That might be a good idea. So, we'll have people just absolutely just dedicated to intentionally misunderstanding me. What I'm trying to do is go ahead and get the expert researchers to go ahead and, that are being like, oh, this is a scientific event that we have no explanation for. Oh, look at the stars. I'm trying to be like, attention, right there. That is the fucking cancerous tumor mass on the fucking universe that is quite literally going to grow and expand full-blown elephantitis level and absolutely decimate the entirety of existence. Alright? That is not a tomorrow problem. That is a now problem caused by almost a half a fucking century of basically falsified scientific statistics now going ahead to reap its ugly fucking head up. You literally got coastal erosion now being able to act as a fucking ruler to go ahead and say how long it is, because of the melting of the polar ice caps, until, the entirety of everything potentially ends up being waterfront property. So, Why don't we go ahead and focus on what's important here? Yeah, that would be nice. I'd like to do that. You know? You don't like to exist? I like to exist, because existing, that means I get to potentially get to experience things that I've always wanted to experience, you know? But, one thing I'd really like to not have to experience is, the collapsing of reality itself, and the saboteurs literally being fucking former alcoholics and shit that want to go like Bible thumping preachers being like, oh, health is wealth, the power of Christ and shit. First of all, your belief system does not have to be everybody else's belief system. Keep that shit to yourself when you try to push your belief system onto somebody else who clearly, by the way, the basis of where their beliefs ended up coming from was, you know, Christianity doesn't really go and touch on the whole reincarnation thing. Might sound like Buddhism, might, be a little bit more rounded in the reality of things. But hey, ultimately, most people don't want to believe reincarnation either. But then again, what the fuck do you think that is? When somebody ends up coming out of that state of stasis, like, a fucking coma. Because usually a coma is a pretty severe fucking learning experience, and one that you won't want to have to experience again. So, the person that went into that coma, that person that had never experienced a fucking coma, or how difficult it is to be able to get out of said coma, could end up being somebody totally different than that person that went into that coma. Like somebody who's experienced a fucking coma and know what they would end up being experiencing going back into that state of fucking stasis and wanting to, avoid that state of stasis as long as possible, because understanding too that state of stasis quite literally is speed running fucking death. But hey, what the fuck do I know? I've only fucking lived it.